Hello, my name is Ethan, I'm 28, I work at a small marketing firm downtown where the coffee is always cold and the deadlines are always hot. Ethan, we need to talk. Vanessa's voice cuts through the empty office air like a blade. It's 8:30 on a Friday night and the building feels like a tomb. Rebecca stands beside her, arms crossed, blocking the conference room door. Both of my bosses are staring at me with expressions I can't quite read. This training session gets intense, Rebecca adds. And there's something in her smile that makes my pulse quicken. I'm sitting at the long mahogany table, laptop closed, notepad forgotten. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting harsh shadows across their faces. Vanessa is 35, sharp as a tack with auburn hair that catches the light when she moves. Rebecca is 42, confident in a way that comes from years of climbing corporate ladders. Her dark eyes hold secrets I've never been brave enough to ask about. What kind of training? I ask, though part of me already knows this isn't about quarterly reports or client presentations. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I got here. Sitting in this conference room with two women who've been occupying my thoughts for months, wondering if I'm about to cross a line I can never uncross. It started 6 months ago when I joined Morrison Marketing Solutions. Fresh out of a dead-end job at a tech startup that folded faster than a house of cards. I was desperate for stability. The interview was standard until Vanessa walked in. She had this presence that filled the room, made you want to sit up straighter, pay attention. Rebecca followed 5 minutes later. Apologizing for being late, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor with purpose. They tag-teamed the interview in a way that should have felt intimidating, but somehow felt like a dance. Vanessa asked the hard questions about strategy and vision. Rebecca focused on personality, team dynamics, whether I could handle pressure. I found myself being more honest than I intended. Talking about my failed relationships, my tendency to overthink everything, my habit of staying late to perfect work that was already good enough. We like honesty, Rebecca said when I finished rambling about my perfectionist tendencies. It's rare in this business. Vanessa nodded. The question is whether you can handle working with two strong-willed women who don't always agree on everything. I got the job. The first month was a learning curve steep enough to give you vertigo. Morrison Marketing wasn't like the casual startup world I came from. Here, presentations mattered, details mattered. The way you carried yourself in client meetings could make or break a deal worth 6 figures. Vanessa became my mentor by default. She had a way of explaining complex strategies that made everything click into place. We'd stay late going over campaigns, her pointing out nuances I'd missed, me taking notes like my life depended on it. She smelled like vanilla and coffee. And sometimes when she leaned over my shoulder to look at my screen, I'd forget what we were discussing entirely. Rebecca was different. Where Vanessa was direct instruction, Rebecca was subtle guidance. She'd drop hints about office politics, suggest better ways to phrase emails. Teach me how to read clients by watching their body language. Her office was always immaculate, everything in its place. But she kept a small succulent on her window sill that she talked to when she thought no one was listening. The first time I realized I was in trouble was during the Henderson Industries presentation. Big client, bigger stakes. Vanessa and Rebecca had been preparing for weeks and I was there for support, taking notes, managing logistics. The client was being difficult, questioning every strategy, demanding changes that would gut the entire campaign. I watched Vanessa handle it with grace, never losing her cool, even when the client got personal about her age and experience. Rebecca stepped in when things got heated, redirecting the conversation with surgical precision. They worked together like they'd been doing it for decades, covering each other's blind spots, building on each other's strengths. After the client left, promising to think it over, I found myself staring at both of them with something that went way beyond professional respect. Good work today, Rebecca said, loosening her blazer. Both of you. Vanessa smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her all week. We make a good team. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just attracted to Vanessa or just attracted to Rebecca. I was attracted to them, to the dynamic they created, to the way they moved around each other like planets in perfect orbit. The Henderson deal fell through, but something else started building in its place. Late nights became more common. Vanessa would order Chinese food for the three of us, and we'd eat straight from the containers while brainstorming new approaches. Rebecca would bring wine on Fridays, just a glass each, to unwind after particularly brutal weeks. These weren't dates. They were work sessions that happened to involve food and occasionally alcohol. But the conversation started drifting away from quarterly projections and toward more personal territory. Vanessa talked about her divorce 3 years ago, how her ex-husband couldn't handle her ambition. Rebecca mentioned the promotion she'd been passed over for at her last company because she wouldn't play politics the way men did. I found myself sharing things I'd never told co-workers before. The novel I'd been writing for 5 years and never finished. The way my parents still asked when I was going to get a real job. The loneliness that came with being single in a city full of couples. "You're not what we expected when we hired you," Rebecca said one evening in late October. We were in her office going over client feedback, but the conversation had wandered toward weekend plans and favorite movies. "Good unexpected or bad unexpected?" I asked. Vanessa, who'd been quiet for most of the evening, looked up from her laptop. "Good. Definitely good." There was something in the way she said it that made me wonder if we were still talking about work performance. November brought the Morrison annual retreat. 2 days at a mountain resort, team-building exercises, strategic planning sessions, and enough forced fun to make anyone question their career choices. Vanessa and Rebecca had warned me it was mandatory, unavoidable, and generally terrible. They were wrong about the terrible part. The resort was actually beautiful, all rustic wood and stone, nestled in hills that were just starting to show their autumn colors. Our rooms were in the same wing. Vanessa and Rebecca across the hall from each other. Me 3 doors down. The first day was standard corporate retreat fare. Trust falls, group problem solving, presentations about synergy and paradigm shifts. But the evening was different. The company had arranged a cocktail hour by the fireplace. And after a few drinks, people started loosening up. I found myself on the deck outside needing air and quiet when Vanessa joined me. "Overwhelming?" she asked, settling into the chair beside mine. "A little. I'm still getting used to the whole corporate culture thing," she laughed. "This isn't corporate culture. This is corporate theater. There's a difference." We talked for an hour about real things. Her childhood in a small town where ambition was viewed with suspicion. My tendency to overthink every decision until paralysis set in. The way we both felt like we were performing versions of ourselves most of the time. Rebecca found us there bringing 3 glasses of wine and settling into the chair across from us without invitation. "Mind if I crash this party?" she asked. But she was already making herself comfortable. "We were just discussing the difference between corporate culture and corporate theater," Vanessa said. Rebecca raised her glass. "To corporate theater. May it pay our bills and leave us enough energy for real life." We drank to that and something shifted. The conversation became more intimate, more honest. Rebecca talked about the loneliness of leadership. How being the boss meant you couldn't really be friends with your employees. Vanessa mentioned the way people treated her differently once they learned she was divorced. Like it was contagious. I admitted that I'd never been in a relationship that felt like partnership. That most of the women I dated seemed to want me to be someone I wasn't. "Maybe you've been dating the wrong women," Rebecca said quietly. The second day of the retreat was better. We worked together on a team challenge that involved building something ridiculous out of random office supplies. And for the first time since I'd started at Morrison, I felt like we were equals rather than bosses and employee. That evening, there was a dinner and dance. Nothing fancy, just a local band playing covers of songs from the 80s and 90s. I'm not much of a dancer, but Vanessa asked me, and saying no seemed impossible. She was a good dancer, confident and fluid in a way that made me forget I was terrible at it. We managed 2 songs before I stepped on her foot badly enough to make her wince. "Sorry," I said, starting to pull away, but she held on. "Don't apologize. I like that you're not perfect at everything." Rebecca appeared beside us as the band started a slower song. "Mind if I cut in?" I expected Vanessa to step back, but instead she smiled. "Why don't we all dance?" It should have been awkward. 3 people trying to dance to a song meant for couples, but somehow it worked. Rebecca's hand on my shoulder, Vanessa's fingers intertwined with mine. The 3 of us moving together like we'd done this before. Other people were watching. I could feel their eyes sense the whispered conversations. But for those 3 minutes I didn't care. I was exactly where I wanted to be. December brought the holiday party and a level of office tension I hadn't experienced before. The Henderson Industries rejection had started a domino effect. 2 other clients had pulled their accounts, citing budget concerns that everyone knew were really about confidence concerns. Morrison marketing was in trouble and everyone could feel it. Vanessa was working 16-hour days trying to salvage existing accounts and court new ones. Rebecca was handling the financial side, looking for ways to cut costs without cutting people. I was doing whatever they needed, from research to presentation design to coffee runs that felt more like therapy sessions. The holiday party was supposed to be a morale booster, but it felt more like a wake. catered food that nobody touched, a cash bar that ran out of everything good by 7:30, and forced conversations about quarterly goals that everyone knew were optimistic at best. I found myself in the break room around 900, hiding from the festivities and wondering if I should start updating my resume when Vanessa appeared in the doorway. "Rough party," she said, closing the door behind her. "I've been to funerals with better energy." She laughed, but it was tired. "That bad?" "Worse. At funerals people at least pretend to be sad. Here, everyone's pretending to be happy." Rebecca joined us a few minutes later, looking as drained as Vanessa. "Please tell me one of you has a flask hidden somewhere." "Fresh out," I said. "But I've got half a sandwich from lunch if you're interested." "God yes. I haven't eaten since breakfast." I split my leftover turkey sandwich 3 ways and we ate in comfortable silence, leaning against the counter like refugees from our own party. "This is nice," Rebecca said eventually. "Quieter than out there." "Everything's quieter than out there," Vanessa replied. "Tom from accounting just tried to start a conga line." We all winced at that image. "Can I ask you guys something?" I said, then continued before they could answer. "Are we going to be okay? The company. I mean." Vanessa and Rebecca exchanged a look that told me everything I needed to know. "Honestly," Rebecca said, "I don't know. We're fighting for every client, every dollar. It's not sustainable long term." "How long term are we talking?" 6 months, maybe 8 if we're lucky," Vanessa said quietly. The weight of that settled over us. 6 months to find new jobs, new lives, new routines. The thought of not seeing them every day, not having our late-night strategy sessions or Friday wine conversations hit me harder than the prospect of unemployment. "I'm going to miss this," I said without thinking. "Miss what?" Rebecca asked. "This us the way we work together." Vanessa was quiet for a long moment. "Yeah, me too," Rebecca nodded. "It's rare, you know, finding people you actually want to work with." The conversation could have ended there. Should have ended there. But something made me push further. "Is that all it is? Work?" The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Vanessa was staring at her hands. Rebecca was looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Ethan," Vanessa started, then stopped. "I know it's complicated," I said quickly. "I know there are rules and boundaries and probably a dozen reasons why this is a terrible idea. But I also know that I've never felt about co-workers the way I feel about you two." "How do you feel about us?" Rebecca asked quietly. I took a breath, knowing I was about to either ruin everything or change everything. "Like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be when I'm with you. Like the 3 of us make sense together in a way that doesn't make sense individually. Like maybe the reason my other relationships never worked is because I was trying to find in one person what I actually need from 2. The silence stretched long enough for me to start regretting every word. Then Vanessa looked up. "We've been wondering when you were going to figure that out." January was different. The holiday party conversation had shifted something fundamental between us, but nobody seemed sure what to do about it. We were still professional during business hours, still maintained appropriate boundaries in front of other employees. But after 500, when the office emptied out, we became something else entirely. Not romantic exactly, not yet, but intimate in ways that had nothing to do with physical contact. Vanessa started sharing stories about her marriage, the slow dissolution of trust and communication that led to divorce. Rebecca talked about the men she dated who were intimidated by her success, who wanted her to be softer, smaller, less ambitious. I found myself opening up about things I'd never discussed with anyone. The way I'd always felt like I was performing masculinity rather than living it naturally. My fear that I was too sensitive, too emotional, too willing to follow rather than lead. The relationships that ended because I wanted partnership and got told I was clingy. "You're not clingy," Vanessa said one evening in late January. We were in the conference room supposedly working on a pitch for a new client, but the conversation had drifted toward more personal territory. "You're emotionally available. There's a difference." Rebecca nodded. "Most men your age are terrified of genuine intimacy. They want the benefits of a relationship without the vulnerability. Is that what you think this is?" I asked. "Me wanting benefits without vulnerability." They both looked at me for a long moment. "No," Rebecca said finally. "I think you're the most vulnerable person I know. It's one of the things we like about you." The word we hung in the air like a promise. February brought a potential lifeline in the form of Meridian Corp, a mid-sized company looking to rebrand completely. It was exactly the kind of account that could save Morrison Marketing, but the competition was fierce. 5 agencies were pitching, including 2 with 10 times our resources. Vanessa, Rebecca and I spent 3 weeks preparing 18-hour days, weekends in the office, takeout dinners eaten over spreadsheets and mood boards. We were a machine, each of us handling different aspects of the pitch, but working toward the same vision. The night before the presentation, we stayed until midnight, running through the pitch one final time. Everything was perfect, our strategy was solid, our creative was inspired, our numbers were realistic but ambitious. We've done everything we can, Rebecca said, closing her laptop. Now we just have to trust that it's enough. Vanessa was gathering her notes, but her hands were shaking slightly. The stress of the past few months was showing, and I realized how much weight she'd lost, how tired she looked, even when she smiled. Hey, I said, touching her arm gently. We've got this. All of us together. She looked up at me, and for a moment, her professional mask slipped completely. She looked scared and hopeful and exhausted all at once. What if it's not enough? What if we lose everything? Rebecca moved closer, putting her hand on Vanessa's shoulder. Then we figure out what comes next. Together. The word together seemed to echo in the empty office. Is that what we are now? Vanessa asked quietly. Together. It was Rebecca who answered. I think we've been together for a while. We just haven't talked about what that means. The Meridian presentation went perfectly. Our strategy was sound. Our creative was brilliant. Our chemistry as a team was undeniable. The clients asked good questions, laughed at the right moments, took extensive notes. When we finished, they thanked us professionally and said they'd be in touch within the week. We celebrated that night, just the three of us at a quiet restaurant downtown. Good wine, better food, and conversation that danced around the edges of what we all knew was happening between us. Whatever happens with Meridian, Vanessa said, raising her glass. I want you both to know that these past few months have been the best of my career. Just your career? Rebecca asked with a smile. Vanessa blushed. Actually blushed. Not just my career. We got the Meridian account. The call came on a Thursday afternoon and Vanessa took it in her office with the door closed. When she emerged 15 minutes later, she was crying. Good tears or bad tears? I asked. Very good tears. They loved everything. They want to move forward immediately. Full rebrand, 18-month contract with options for additional work. Rebecca whooped loud enough to make everyone in the office look up from their computers. I hugged Vanessa without thinking, lifting her off the ground and spinning her around until she laughed. We did it, she said when I put her down. We actually did it. Rebecca joined our embrace, and for a moment the three of us just held each other in the middle of the office, not caring who saw or what they thought. That evening, we went out for real celebration. Expensive restaurant, champagne that cost more than my rent, dessert that was more art than food. We talked about the future, about expanding the team, about other potential clients who might be interested now that we had Meridian in our portfolio. But underneath the business talk was something else. A current of possibility that had been building for months. I have a confession, Rebecca said as we were waiting for the check. I've been thinking about what you said at the holiday party about finding in two people what you couldn't find in one. Vanessa leaned forward. And I think it works both ways. I think maybe I've been looking for something in men that I actually need from both of you. The conversation that followed was careful, tentative, full of questions about boundaries and expectations and what it would mean for our professional relationship. But by the time we left the restaurant, we'd acknowledged what had been building between us for months. We were more than colleagues, more than friends. We were something new, something that didn't have a name yet, but felt right in ways that traditional relationships never had. March was a month of firsts. First time Vanessa kissed me, soft and tentative after a late-night strategy session. First time Rebecca took my hand while we were walking to lunch. Her fingers intertwining with mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. First time the three of us fell asleep together on the conference room couch, exhausted from working on a rush project. Waking up tangled together in the morning light. We were careful at work, professional in front of other employees, but after hours we were exploring something unprecedented. Not a traditional relationship, not a typical love triangle, but something uniquely ours. Vanessa was the planner, always thinking 3 steps ahead, making sure we communicated about everything. Rebecca was the adventurer, pushing boundaries, suggesting new experiences. I was the bridge between them, the one who helped them understand each other when their different approaches to life created friction. And there was friction. Rebecca's impulsiveness sometimes clashed with Vanessa's need for structure. Vanessa's tendency to overthink conflicted with Rebecca's preference for action. They'd been working together for years. But being in a relationship with someone was different from being their business partner. I found myself mediating more than I expected, not because they couldn't resolve conflicts themselves, but because they valued my perspective. I was neutral territory, someone who cared about both of them equally and could see situations from outside their established dynamic. This is harder than I thought it would be, Vanessa admitted one evening in early April. We were at Rebecca's apartment trying to plan a weekend getaway. But the conversation had devolved into a disagreement about whether to book activities in advance or leave everything spontaneous. Relationships are always hard, Rebecca said. That's what makes them worth it. But this isn't just a relationship. It's a relationship with 3 people, one of whom we also work with every day. The complexity is exponential. I looked up from my laptop where I'd been pretending to work while they hashed this out. Maybe we're overthinking it. They both stared at me. I mean, yes, it's complicated. Yes, it's unprecedented. But so what? Most good things are complicated. Most worthwhile things require figuring it out as you go. Vanessa sighed. But what if we mess it up? What if this ruins our friendship, our working relationship, everything we've built? What if it doesn't? I countered. What if it makes everything better? Rebecca smiled. I like his optimism. I like his everything, Vanessa said quietly. Then blushed when she realized she'd said it out loud. The weekend getaway happened, and it was perfect in ways I hadn't expected. We rented a cabin by a lake. Spent 3 days hiking and cooking and talking, and learning how to be together without the structure of work to guide our interactions. I watched Vanessa relax in ways I'd never seen before. Her shoulders losing their perpetual tension, her laugh becoming more frequent and genuine. Rebecca showed a softer side, content to sit quietly by the fire, reading while Vanessa and I played cards. We slept in the same bed. Nothing sexual, just the 3 of us curled together like it was the most natural thing in the world. I woke up Sunday morning with Vanessa's head on my chest and Rebecca's arm across both of us, and thought that maybe this was what home felt like. The drive back to the city was quiet, contemplative. We were all thinking about what came next, how to integrate this new version of ourselves with our professional lives and social expectations. People are going to have opinions, Rebecca said as we hit city traffic. People always have opinions, Vanessa replied. The question is whether we care. Do we care? I asked. They were both quiet for a moment. I care about us, Vanessa said finally. I care about protecting what we have. Rebecca nodded. Same. But I also think we can't live our lives based on other people's comfort levels. May brought new challenges and new joys. The Meridian campaign was going brilliantly, leading to inquiries from other potential clients. Morrison Marketing was not just surviving but thriving. And the 3 of us were being recognized as the core team responsible for the turnaround. But success brought scrutiny. People noticed that we worked late together, took lunch together, seemed to operate as a unit rather than as boss and employees. The gossip was subtle but persistent, and I could see it wearing on Vanessa, who'd always been sensitive about her professional reputation. Maybe we should be more careful, she said one evening as we were leaving the office. A group of co-workers had invited us for drinks and we declined as a unit, which hadn't gone unnoticed. More careful how? Rebecca asked. I don't know. Less obvious about spending time together. More professional boundaries during work hours. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Are you having second thoughts? No, Vanessa said quickly. Not about us, about how public we are about us. Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. I understand the concern, but I also think that hiding who we are sends the message that we're ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed, Vanessa said. I'm protective. We found a compromise. More discretion at work, but no apologies for our personal lives. We stopped having lunch together every day. Varied our schedules so we weren't always the last ones in the office. Made an effort to socialize with other co-workers occasionally. It helped with the gossip, but created new tensions between us. The forced separation during work hours made our after-hours time feel more intense, more precious. We were like teenagers sneaking around, which was thrilling and exhausting in equal measure. June brought the company's summer picnic, an annual tradition that everyone attended, and no one particularly enjoyed. Forced fun in a park with volleyball tournaments and 3-legged races and enough alcohol to make the forced fun bearable. Vanessa, Rebecca, and I arrived separately and made an effort to mingle with different groups, but I kept finding myself watching them from across the park. Vanessa in a sundress that made her look younger. More carefree, Rebecca in jeans and a tank top, her hair pulled back, laughing at something Tom from accounting was saying. The volleyball tournament was co-ed, and through some cosmic coincidence or careful planning, the 3 of us ended up on the same team. We were terrible at volleyball. But we were good at working together, anticipating each other's movements, covering each other's weaknesses. We made it to the semi-finals before losing to a team that actually knew how to play. but we had more fun losing than they seemed to have winning. Good game, Rebecca said as we walked off the court and impulsively kissed my cheek. It was innocent. The kind of gesture teammates make all the time. But I saw several people notice. Vanessa saw them too. Her smile became more forced, her posture more rigid. The picnic ended with a group photo. Everyone crowded together on the pavilion steps. I ended up between Vanessa and Rebecca, their shoulders pressed against mine, and for a moment, I forgot about discretion and professional boundaries. I was just happy to be there with them. That night, Vanessa was quiet during dinner, picking at her food and avoiding eye contact. "What's wrong?" Rebecca asked finally. "Nothing's wrong. I'm just tired." "Vanessa," I said gently, "talk to us." She put down her fork and looked at both of us. I saw how people were looking at us today. The speculation, the whispered conversations. It's getting harder to ignore. Rebecca reached across the table and took her hand. "So, what if they're talking? Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You're not the one who'll be labeled as the boss who's sleeping with her employees." The words hit like a slap. Rebecca pulled her hand back and I felt something shift in the air between us. "Is that what you think this is?" Rebecca asked quietly. "You sleeping with your employees?" "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." I watched them stare at each other across the table. Years of friendship and professional partnership suddenly at risk. "Stop," I said, "both of you just stop." They looked at me. "Vanessa, you're not sleeping with your employees. You're in a relationship with two people who happen to work for you. Rebecca, you're not being used for sex. You're being loved by someone who's scared of losing everything she's worked for." I took a breath. "And both of you are forgetting that this isn't just about work or what other people think. This is about us, the three of us, what we mean to each other." Vanessa's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I don't want to lose this, either of this, our relationship or our professional partnership." "You won't," Rebecca said softly. "We'll figure it out." "How can you be so sure?" Rebecca smiled. "Because we're good at solving problems together. It's what we do." July was a month of solutions. We sat down and had the conversation we should have had months earlier about boundaries and expectations and what we wanted our future to look like. Vanessa needed structure. Clear guidelines about how to separate our personal and professional lives. Rebecca needed freedom, the ability to be herself without constantly worrying about appearances. I needed both of them to be happy, which meant finding ways to honor both of their needs. We established rules. No physical affection at work, period. No special treatment in professional settings. No discussing our personal relationship with co-workers, but also no hiding. No pretending we didn't care about each other. No apologizing for spending time together outside of work. It wasn't perfect, but it was workable. More importantly, it was honest. The Morrison Marketing Summer Party was our first real test. Unlike the company picnic, this was an evening event, cocktails, and dinner at an upscale restaurant with clients and partners in attendance. Professional networking disguised as social gathering. I wore my best suit, the one I'd bought for job interviews, but rarely had occasion to wear. Vanessa was stunning in a black dress that was professional but elegant. Rebecca wore navy blue, her hair down for once, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. We arrived at different times, mingled with different groups, played our roles as boss and employees perfectly. But I caught Vanessa's eye across the room when the client from Meridian complimented our teamwork. Saw Rebecca's small smile when a potential new client asked specifically to work with our team. Later, when the evening was winding down and people were starting to leave, I found myself on the restaurant's terrace, needing air and a moment of quiet. Vanessa joined me first, then Rebecca. Like they'd been waiting for the chance. "Good party," Rebecca said, leaning against the railing beside me. "Very professional," Vanessa added with a slight smile. "Almost too professional," I said. "I barely got to talk to either of you." "That was the point," Vanessa said. "But I missed it too." Rebecca looked at both of us. "You know what I realized tonight?" We waited. "I don't care what people think. I care what you think. Both of you. And I know what you think of me, what you think of us. That's enough." Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "It is enough, isn't it? What we have, what we've built together." I looked at both of them, these two incredible women who'd somehow become the center of my world, and felt something settle into place. "More than enough," I said. August brought a new challenge in the form of a job offer. Rebecca was head-hunted by a larger firm. Offered a position that would double her salary and put her in charge of her own department. It was the kind of opportunity that comes along once in a career, impossible to ignore. She told us about it on a Thursday evening after we'd finished reviewing quarterly numbers that showed Morrison Marketing was not just stable but growing. "When do you have to decide?" Vanessa asked, her voice carefully neutral. 2 weeks, I felt something cold settle in my chest. Are you going to take it? Rebecca looked at both of us. I don't know, it's a great opportunity. But it would mean leaving all of this. All of what? Vanessa asked quietly. You know what? We talked about it for hours that night. The practical considerations, the career implications, the personal costs. Rebecca would be crazy not to consider it seriously. Vanessa and I would be selfish to ask her not to. But underneath all the rational discussion was a deeper fear. What we had together was fragile, unprecedented, dependent on proximity and shared purpose. Could it survive one of us leaving? Could it survive the fundamental change in our dynamic? I need to think about it, Rebecca said finally. Really think about it. The next 2 weeks were strange. We continued our normal routines. But there was an undercurrent of uncertainty that colored everything. Rebecca was distracted, weighing options and possibilities. Vanessa was trying to be supportive while clearly hoping Rebecca would stay. I was caught between wanting what was best for Rebecca and wanting what was best for us. Rebecca made her decision on a Friday. She called the other firm and declined their offer. Why? I asked when she told us. She looked at Vanessa, then at me. Because some things are more important than career advancement. Because what we have here is rare and I'm not ready to give it up. Vanessa hugged her fiercely. Are you sure? It was such a good opportunity. There will be other opportunities. There won't be another you, either of you. That weekend we went away again, back to the same cabin by the lake. This time, it felt like a celebration rather than an exploration. We were choosing each other actively and deliberately over other possibilities. September brought a new rhythm. We were more confident in our relationship, more secure in our choices. The office gossip had died down, replaced by respect for our professional results and grudging acceptance of our personal bond. Vanessa was promoted to senior partner, a recognition of her role in the company's turnaround. Rebecca was given more autonomy and a significant raise. I was offered a permanent position with a title that reflected my actual contributions, rather than my original job description. We were succeeding individually and together. October brought the anniversary of my hiring, and Vanessa and Rebecca surprised me with a small celebration after work. Nothing elaborate, just cake and wine and a card they'd both signed. Thank you, Vanessa had written, for making everything better. Rebecca's message was simpler, for being exactly who we needed. I looked at both of them. These two women who changed my life in ways I was still discovering, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Thank you, I said, for taking a chance on me. Thank you for taking a chance on us, Rebecca replied. November was quiet, productive, comfortable. We'd found our balance, our rhythm, our way of being together that honored all of our needs and fears and hopes. December brought another holiday party, but this one was different. Morrison Marketing had recovered, grown, established itself as a serious player in the local market. The mood was celebratory rather than desperate, confident rather than forced. Vanessa, Rebecca, and I mingled naturally, talked with colleagues and clients, enjoyed the party without the weight of uncertainty that had characterized the previous year. Near the end of the evening, I found myself in the same break room where we'd shared that turkey sandwich 12 months earlier. Vanessa and Rebecca found me there just like before. Déjà vu, Rebecca said, closing the door behind her. Good déjà vu, Vanessa added. I looked at both of them, remembering the uncertainty and hope of that night, comparing it to the certainty and contentment of this one. We've come a long way, I said. We have, Vanessa agreed. But I feel like we're just getting started. Rebecca smiled. I like the sound of that. And that brings me back to this Friday night in January. Sitting in the conference room with both of my bosses blocking the door, their smiles promising something I'm not sure I'm ready for, but definitely want to explore. What kind of training? I ask again, though I think I already know the answer. Vanessa moves closer, her hand resting on the back of my chair. The kind that requires complete trust. Rebecca steps forward, her eyes holding mine. The kind that changes everything. I look at both of them. These two incredible women who become my partners in every sense of the word, and realize that whatever they have in mind, I'm ready for it. Then let's begin, I say. The fluorescent lights hum overhead, casting shadows that dance across their faces as they move closer. Outside, the city continues its Friday night rhythm. But in here, in this conference room where we've shared so many late nights and important conversations, something new is beginning. Vanessa's hand touches my shoulder. Rebecca's fingers brush against mine. And I understand that this isn't just about physical intimacy or crossing professional boundaries. This is about trust, about vulnerability. About three people who found something rare and precious and decided to explore it fully. Are you sure about this? I ask, giving them one last chance to change their minds. They look at each other. Then at me, and I see years of friendship and months of growing attraction and weeks of careful consideration in their eyes. We've never been more sure of anything, Vanessa says softly. Rebecca nods. This is what we want, all of us. And as they move closer, as the space between us disappears, I realize that everything we've built together, all the late nights and difficult conversations and careful negotiations, has been leading to this moment. The training session is about to begin. And I'm finally ready to learn everything they want to teach me. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop asking the world for a blueprint, and start building one with the people who've earned your trust. Ethan, Vanessa, and Rebecca don't just fall into an unusual relationship, they negotiate it. They talk until the air is clear, set boundaries, revise them, and protect what matters. That's the lesson. Real connection isn't a lightning strike, it's a practice. It's showing up with honesty when fear says hide, choosing clarity when gossip says perform, and designing rules that honor everyone involved. Love, romantic, professional, or both, doesn't collapse under scrutiny, it deepens. When you name needs without shame, when you blend structure with tenderness, you stop living by borrowed expectations and start living by earned agreements. Most of us are taught to choose safety over sincerity. But the moment you speak plainly, this is what I want, this is what I can give, this is what I won't trade, life gets simpler, not smaller. Courage isn't loud. It's three people in a quiet room, telling the truth and trusting it enough to act. Whether your team is a partner, a friend, or a crew at work, let your boundaries be a bridge, not a wall. Protect the bond, not the performance. And remember, what is rare is not intensity, it's responsibility for that intensity. If this struck a chord, tell me in the comments. What's one boundary you'll honor this year to protect a relationship that matters? I read every reply. And if you want more honest, nuanced stories and lessons like this, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's build a community where courage and clarity are the norm.